Playing against Byzantines works like this. If you let them get 5 cisterns untouched, you are going to have a very bad time. The issue is getting there without taking damage. So today, I'll give you the best possible build you can do right now to get to 5 cisterns as quickly as 4 minutes and 50 seconds, and defend yourself as best as possible, even against really early aggressives like Mongols or Japanese. If you survive the early game, you will be able to storm your opponent's base with the most ridiculously powerful and completely unstoppable army in the game. So let's get into it. Let's start with the ideal setup, which is what your build should look like if your opponent's prefrontal cortex decides it's a good idea to let you do whatever you want. First, send all your villagers to the closest sheep to your TC. Then queue villagers and rally the TC to the sheep. Finally, send your scout first towards the back of your base, and then towards the enemy base, like this. This is very important because we want to know 2 things. 1. Where are our second berries? In this case we have double back berries, which is perfect. Now we know that we have to build our cisterns towards that side of our base. If my scout did not see any berries back here, we would know that they are on this side. Having this knowledge is extremely important for later. The second thing we want to know is if our opponent is Dark Age rushing us. You will find that players very often tower rush Byzantines extremely early, so this part is crucial. If we see that they are doing this, we will do a variation of the build that I will cover later in this video. Now that we've covered scouting, let's go back to the start of the game. We will need to distribute our starting villagers like this. Send 3 villagers to build a mining camp on the stone and 1 to build a mining camp on the gold, leaving only 2 on sheep. The first villager will go to sheep, and as soon as the second villager pops out, let him kill a sheep and then build a house with it. This will be your builder villager for a long while. He will be in charge of building all 5 cisterns with aqueducts, so I even recommend putting him in a control group for now. Now, where you put your first 2 cisterns is very important. The influence of the first 2 should reach 3 resources: your gold, your woodline, and your stone. Your sheep villagers should always be affected, so don't worry about them. In this case I messed it up a little bit because my second cistern only covers the woodline, but does not reach the stone. This can happen sometimes depending on the map and the spawn, but don't worry too much about it. By the time you finish your second cistern, you will have enough stone to build your third one. But this time make sure other resources are recovered. Let's pause here for a second and cover something really important about building aqueducts. There will be times where you won't have enough stone to build a full cistern, but you will have enough stone to start building at the aqueducts. So instead of sending your builder villager back to gather a resource or just letting him be idle after finishing a cistern, make him start building the aqueducts toward the place where you will build the following cistern. The best way to decide how long to build the aqueduct is by looking at the stone cost. Aim for a length that costs between 16 and 18 stone. By the time your villager finishes constructing this aqueduct, your 3 stone miners should have mined enough to build a cistern. Sometimes you will have to manually drop off the stone to avoid idle time on the builder villager, so be wary of that. And also, this stone cost is only when you build the aqueducts completely straight. Sometimes you will have to build the aqueducts at an angle or around a building, and that also increases the cost of the aqueduct, so I suggest you practice this micro before doing this. Back to where we left off. By the time you start building your third cistern, you should be reaching the resources needed to age up. Do so with 3 villagers from sheep with a grand winery. Make sure this grand winery is affected by at least one of your cisterns, and set that the cistern to dialecticus. This way your food upgrades from the Grand Winery will be researched faster. After you place the landmark down, send 1 more villager to gold and 3 to the straggler trees. Your TC rally points should also be on the straggler trees. Now, your builder villager should start building cisterns towards your secondary berries, which in this case spawned back here. We will also start building the aqueducts towards the very last cistern. After you have finished mining the necessary stone for your final cistern, immediately move your 3 stone villagers to help build the Grand Winery. And by the way, in this example I did not perform the build as perfectly as possible, so I got a slightly delayed timing on my last cistern. but after practicing for a while I was able to get the promised 450 timing for 5 cisterns. Enough wood to build a barracks to defend myself, and a 5-minute timing on my feudal ASAP. So if you're struggling to do this, trust me, I struggled a lot as well at the beginning. But it does take a lot of practice, so I encourage you to try it in custom games and you will eventually get it. The 6 landmark villagers will stay on berries for pretty much the rest of the build. When they finish this patch, just queue them to move on to your secondary berries. Now, once you have reached 8 wood villagers, set your TC rally point on sheep until you are able to age up to castle. If you're against an aggressive, move some of these sheep villagers to berries instead, so you can gather the exposed resource faster. From now on, if you're going to build any building, like a house, the mercenary house, or walls, always do it with a wood villager. By the way, take a look at how much wood I'm currently floating. All of this wood will be used for 3 things: a lumber camp, a barracks, and wheelbarrow as soon as you age up to feudal. If you're up against a knight civilization or any cavalry civ, you should definitely drop the barracks way sooner so you can pump out spearmen to defend yourself. The barracks placement is extremely important, by the way. Make sure you always drop it in a way that it is affected by the influence of 2 cisterns. Put 1 cistern in Conscriptio and the other in Dialecticus. This way, both your unit production and your upgrades will be way faster. Once the barracks is done, build up to 5 Limitanae and upgrade them to hardened as soon as you can. This number varies on the game, of course. When you have gathered another 150 wood, build your mercenary house and make sure it is also affected by 2 cisterns. As soon as wheelbarrow finishes, also research horticulture from the Grand Winery. When the mercenary house finishes, research the Western Mercenary contract to unlock longbows. Only research the javelin thrower contract if you're up against a knight civilization. This is because it will allow you to make camels in the castle age, which will debuff the enemy knight's damage if you mix them with your army. Now at this point, use your wood villagers to start walling yourself off with the excess wood. You can also use this wood to build a tower on your gold or your berries if you scout your opponent is making too many units for you to defend. This is where your Limitanae come in handy. You can use them to guard your gold or to protect the villagers that are constructing the walls. You will have to be extremely active with your scout in order to know where to have your Limitanae defending. By this point, if you see your opponent is being way too passive or greedy, you can use these 5 Limitanae on longbows to go harass and delay your opponent. You can also use them to deny deer from a professional scout civilization. Again, use your scout to see what your enemy is doing and respond accordingly. By the 845 mark, you should have enough resources to age up with the Golden Horn Tower. Build it with 8 villagers from sheep and immediately transfer all your wood villagers to the gold mine. This should leave you with a distribution of 10 foot villagers, 12 on gold, and the TC rally points should be on wood. The 8 landmark villagers will go back to sheep as soon as they finish. While you're aging up, make sure you build a stable and blacksmith as soon as you have the wood. The blacksmith should be within the influence of a Dialecticus cistern, and the stable under a Conscriptio cistern. As soon as you age up, you will have to do 3 things immediately. Queue cataphracts non-stop from your single stable, queue a monk to start gathering relics, and upgrade your mercenaries. Remember, you can always preset the rally point from the Grand Winery to the relics, so your monks start gathering as soon as it pops out. And if you want the monk to come out faster, you can also set your cistern to Conscriptio, so it comes out in 15 seconds instead of 30. But remember to set it back to Dialecticus right after. Now, your first objective in Castle Age is to gather relics, so use the units you currently have to escort your monk and defend the other relic spots on the map. After the relic gathering is done, you should have a strong enough army to go across the map and cause some damage. If you reach this point without getting touched, you will have one of the, if not the, strongest armies in the game, consisting of longbows, cataphracts, and a few Limitanaes. Make sure you upgrade range damage and armor first from your blacksmiths, and teardrop shields last. From now on, the build ends, but take this into consideration. Just keep massing cataphracts and longbows. Add in a few Limitanae if your opponent has too much cavalry. You will eventually start floating wood. Use this excess wood to build farms around your Grand Winery. This will net you a lot of oil, which will be useful to continue making mercenaries. If the game reaches a point where you have gathered 350 stone passively, you can always drop a second TC to further increase your economy. However, remember you can always use this stone to upgrade your towers. Mangonel towers are exceptionally good at defending. as you should definitely have some upgraded if you are being attacked. Another tip I can give you is that if you need to upgrade a tower quickly, you can build it within the influence of a cistern. Set the cistern to Dialecticus, and the upgrade will be done in no time. Also, you can always fully wall yourself if you have the time and the APM to do so. Now, there are times where your opponent is not dumb and will do some kind of early aggression to stop your cisterns. This is why at the beginning of the build, I told you to scout like this. As soon as your scout reaches the enemy base, see if they have a barracks, if they have no gold yet, or if their villagers are gathering wood when they shouldn't. These are all good indications that some kind of rush is coming your way. In this case, immediately send 3 villagers from sheep to gold, so you can gather the 100 gold you need to get to the feudal age before spearmen arrive. If you start getting harassed by spearmen, remember you can always use the cistern ability to give your villagers a little bit more durability. Once you have gathered the necessary gold, move all your villagers to food. In most games, your 3 stone villagers should get enough to build a 3rd cistern. Level 3 cistern is already pretty good, and should be enough to get to feudal age faster than your opponent and repel this attack. Once you have enough resources to age up, do so with the Hippodrome with 7 villagers. Leave only 3 on wood and the rest on the sheep. If you didn't get enough sheep and some of your villagers are left idle, just send them to wood instead. Once you age up, start pumping out horsemen from the Hippodrome. There will be times where your opponent has not completed the tower yet. If this is the case, send your horsemen and a big ball of villagers to prevent the tower from happening. Even if your opponent did complete the tower in time, the horsemen and all of these powered up villagers should be more than enough to burn it down and clear the spearmen and villagers from your opponent. Once you do so, start gathering berries and continue the build as normal from here. Redistribute your macro and remember to complete the 5 cisterns. The difference is that you won't have much olive oil to get as many mercenaries as before, but you will have stronger horsemen to secure the rest of the berries on the map. And once you reach castle, your cataphracts will be basically unstoppable with the Hippodrome's ability. Now let's talk about which maps are best for this build. Besides water maps, Enlightened Horizon is a must ban for Byzantines in general, since your starting berries are extremely far away from the TC. You can do this build on pretty much every other map. Remember, this is a semi-fast castle build though, so maps with small gold vein might be a problem, but this small gold vein should be more than enough to get you to castle. Get your unit upgrades and then fight back the map control with wood units and mercenaries. Be wary of open maps though, since this is a build that requires a lot of map awareness and is very vulnerable to raids and rushes. These are the maps where you might struggle the most. I feel one of the best maps for Byzantines is Altai, since getting your 5 cisterns is extremely easy. The map is very easy to wall, and later, when you have units, the rush distance from your base to the enemy base is extremely short. Perfect for a Byzantine Castle Age deathball. Other great maps that are extremely easy to defend and get cisterns up easily are Hillandale and Rocky River. Well, the good thing about this build is that it is pretty easy to know when it's coming. If you scout 3 villagers and stone, that is pretty much all the information you need. However, it might also be that the opponent is going for a second TC. So another good way to know is to constantly patrol your opponent's secondary berries, to see if there is a lone villager constructing aqueducts towards it. The best strategy by far to counter this is the Dark Age Spearman Rush. If you can, try to hide it as much as possible, so your opponent cannot react appropriately. And if you suspect they are going for Hippodrome, you might want to forgo the tower rush. Instead, just deny his gold and his stone with spearmen and transition to feudal age as fast as possible. If Byzantines are not able to get out on their initial berries, they will run out of food pretty quickly. Also, if you see that they send a ball of villagers towards you, just wait for the Aqueduct defense to run out. This lasts for only 30 seconds and has a cooldown of 150 seconds. So once they use it, you will have a pretty big window to deal with the horsemen. Beware though, because this strategy is also heavily dependent on the map and the spawn. If your opponent has safe berries or stone, there is a high chance they will be able to defend this pretty effectively. The last thing I can think of to counter this build is to do some kind of early feudal pressure into a castle age timing attack. What I mean by this is to produce just enough units in the feudal age to deal some kind of damage, cause idle time on their exposed resources, break a few aqueducts, and make him want to make units to defend himself. This will effectively delay the Byzantine player from going up to castle age. In the meantime, go to castle age yourself, and now that you have a stronger unit, such as men at arms and knights, you will have a window of opportunity to deal a lot of damage with your superior units, before they can upgrade theirs. In some cases, you can even win the game right then and there. If you would like to see me perform this strategy against a Conqueror Byzantine player, doing 5 cisterns, you could watch the first game of my Ayubid camel timing video. Now let's get into a game I played against an Abbasid player in Rocky River. This is great matchup for Biz because if they go to TCs you will be able to get your 5 cisterns pretty much uncontested. If you would like to see me test these strategies out, consider subscribing to see when I'm live, or follow me on Twitch to catch me there also. Okay, so let's analyze a game that I played off stream against a Abbasid player. This map is Rocky River. This map has very good things for Byzantines and also a few things that are not as good. The things that are not as good is that we only have a secondary patch and the other very patches are on the middle right here. So not on the sides but very front. So if I wanted to go for more than 2 berry patches I would have to go on the middle of the map. So that is one thing that is bad for Byzantines here. But the good thing is that it is actually an extremely defensible map because you always spawn with these 2 wood lines on the sides. So walling this map is actually extremely easy. That is also why Abbasid is pretty good on this map too, because they can go 2 or 3 TCs extremely easily and it is extremely easy to defend. Trade is also an option here because trade from this side to that side is going to be extremely effective. So if they wanted to go for that, that is also a pretty good option. So now I managed to get my 5th cistern somewhere around 457, which is not the 450, but you know, this is a pretty extremely hard build to execute. You will have to practice it a lot to get the 450 timing all the time. So now my opponent is going into a second TC and I believe I did scout it right away. Yeah, there it is. And for this reason I am sending my spearmen straight to his base instead of just maintaining them defensively. And I will want to also send my mercenaries pretty fast, so for that reason I have 11 on the berries, because I want to get the oil as fast as possible and get my longbows on the other side of the map to harass. So these are some little variations that I do depending on the situation, and because my opponent is being very passive and defensive, I am able to do this. So now we are going to play a little bit aggressive. So he goes for an artillery range on the front, but probably didn't expect me to send my Limitan A straight to his base. So now what I use them for is just to get some hits off on their house, just outside the TC range. So this is going to be a little bit annoying for him, and he'll have to keep building houses. Now, the effect that this has on my opponent is that he is wasting a lot of resources on, well, not wasting, but he has to invest a lot in defense and in military building. So now he has 2 archery ranges that he didn't have before. That's 300 wood that he had to invest in defense. And I have only invested a couple of spearmen and my mercenaries, which cost oil, not resources, actual resources. So now that he sees my longbows, he decides that it's time to keep investing in feudal age. So now he's going to be very delayed for castle age, because he keeps investing in the feudal age. He also added a blacksmith, and in the meantime I'm already aging up to castle. So I will most likely get all the relics off of these a small harassment that I did on the feudal age with my Limitan A. So that is pretty good for me. While I'm aging up, I pre-queue my grind winery, which is also a temple, a monastery. So when I age up to castle, I just have to make my monk, and my monk will get all the relics instantly. So that is also something that you can use to your advantage. So I keep getting all my upgrades. As soon as I get to castle, I upgrade my mercenaries. I start making cataphracts. Cataphracts are going to be good for now, because he doesn't have any camels yet. But against Abbasid and Ayubid, you will want to have an infantry composition. So that would be spearmen or men at arms or crossbows and longbows. Cataphract will be good for now, but yeah. So now he's still stuck in feudal age. He's already aging up, but I still have a lot of time to do something here. Now, I am not very experienced with Byzantines, so I am really not sure what to do now. What I should have done is gone over to this side, but I really don't know where his villagers are. So I just thought that I would invest my time into destroying this table, but I'm actually wasting a lot of precious time. I should have been on this side getting all of his villagers and all of his gold as well, but I am currently wasting a lot of time. And he is just scaling with 2 TCs, and once he gets into Castle Age, he will be able to upgrade all of these and pretty much beat my army. Now he's up to Castle Age, and I still haven't done any damage. Now I finally decide to go in because I don't want him to get any upgrades. But this is way too late. He already has way too many units, and even though they are not upgraded yet, he is able to beat my army back. And now I started adding men at arms, which are going to be kind of effective here. I only survived this fight because I have Castle Age units, but it was a pretty bad mistake from my part to not do anything sooner, and I gave him way too much time. So now I feel like I need some siege to start breaking all of his military production buildings, but this is still a mistake because his left side is very uncovered. I should have just broken this with units and got into his gold so he cannot make gold units. He ran out of food, but because he aged up with the economic wing, he can build a lot of farms really easily. I finally started to get some kills here, but it is already too late, and because his villagers are less expensive than mine. A few villager kills against Abbasid is really not that much. So now I have wasted my opportunity, and if we see the income, he's way ahead than me. He already has farms set up. I don't think I have a single farm yet. I have just started making farms around my ground winery, and I have to go all the way over to these berries to get more food. So I'm at a pretty big disadvantage at this point in time, and I did get pretty much all the relics. I still haven't gotten these two, but he doesn't have any relics and I have 3, but that's still not an advantage. He already has all of this food income, and the only advantage that I have right now is that my army is a lot more expensive than his and consists of better units. That is the only thing that I have right now, but my timer has pretty much run out, and I just wanted to show you this because it's something really common that happens with a lot of civilizations. You have to be active with your units if you have a big army. If you don't do anything with your army, they will just scale up in economy and beat you with a stronger number of units. So now a fight here happens, I lose pretty much all my Chirosyphons, and because his units are now upgraded and he has crossbows, my army just gets completely destroyed. At this time, I just think of falling back for a bit and using all of these resources that I have, because I was so focused on the fight on the front that I am floating this many resources. So now I start thinking about a farm transition and start setting up my long-term economy. So that's something that I do, and in the meantime I will use this cavalry to pretty much take his attention off of the center of the map while I set up my Imperial Age economy. So like I mentioned before, he's going to go for a raid. I will go for a raid because I don't want his bigger and more scary army to march towards my base. My base is actually pretty uncovered right now. I don't have walls on this side or on this side. I just have a few towers here and there and my army here to defend. So this raid here, it actually buys me a lot of time because he's chasing it with his whole army. So that is a bad mistake from him. So like I said back here, he raids with this, but I have a bunch of towers on my main army here defending, so he doesn't do much with that. And he's still very occupied just trying to deal with my horsemen and my cataphracts. But I get distracted here for a moment. I lose pretty much all of my raiding forces. And with that, he keeps raiding with his horsemen here. I also managed to clear his raiding forces. But because he now feels like he's in a much better position army-wise than me, he's now confident enough to take the center. And will probably push onto my base pretty soon. Now, he pushes onto my base, but he actually gave me a lot of time to set up my economy. So now I have mangonels, I have a bunch of longbows, and I have Varangian guards and Limitane. This is a much better army than his, even though he is beating me in economy by a very large margin. The advantage of Byzantines is that even if you're behind in economy, your units are so strong that you are able to win fights even from being behind in economy. Now he's unable to break into my base because my army is just much better. And now that my economy is set up, I already have farms as well. Now I can start fighting in the middle. So I use my mangonels to clear some of his archers. And here comes the issue, right? So my army is better, but his economy is way stronger than mine, and he has so many military buildings, constantly producing all the time, that he just replenishes his trash army much faster than I can get army into the field, right? So I am unable to break this position on the front here. And now he goes for a very well put keep here that will prevent me from going any further with my stronger army. So this will delay even more the game. Now as for army composition, he has horsemen, men-at-arms, some camels, and archers and crossbows. And I have Limitane, Varangian guards, longbows, and a few horsemen as well. Right now I'm not able to break through his front line, and I don't have an answer to breaking into his economy, right? So this causes the game to be in a back and forth here in the middle for quite some time. Now after some time he started getting siege as well, but we're still in a tug of war here in the middle. And something that I have an advantage in is that he's mining all of the gold on his side of the map. He has this gold vein, which is 3,000 gold left, and he has this gold vein here and this gold vein here, and that's it. He doesn't have any more gold. Meanwhile, this big gold mine for me is completely fresh, and I have this gold vein here, which is completely fresh as well. And I still have some gold in my base. So the advantage of Byzantines is that the 20% olive oil that we get from farms is actually pretty big, because this is pretty much gold that you're getting for free, and you can get gold units from the mercenary houses. So this is an extremely good advantage. And right now I am able to go into Imperial Age with the economy that I have, and while my army defends in the middle. And I decided to go with the Palatine school just because I'm really not that experienced with Byzantines. This is a landmark that just gives you value by existing, by making units. It pops out units when you train in other military buildings. So that is something pretty good. So now that we are in Imperial Age, the goal is just to get my university, get all the upgrades that I can, get all my blacksmith upgrades as well, and all my unit upgrades as well. So now I'm going to have Imperial Age units that will be a little bit better to deal with his army than I had before. And I will also be able to get some bombards as well to deal with his keep in the middle and his defenses on the sides. Now he's starting to see the problem. He just ran out of gold here. He's going to chew from this gold pretty fast, and he's also chewing from this gold pretty fast. and I still have not started mining my big gold vein. Now I have a pretty big army in the middle, so I started pushing here. And I started seeing where to do damage elsewhere, right? So now I am starting to raid on other sides of its base while I distract him on the front. So this is something that you can do when the game is stagnated like this. You can start raiding on the sides, and that way your opponent will have to respond on multiple fronts instead of just worrying about the front. Because he started seeing me raiding, he now tries to wall himself off with stone walls. But I started just sending units here and there while my main army pushes in the front. But I am still unable to break his army on the front. So the game still lasts a long time here, so I'm just going to go ahead and speed it up. After some time I finally get my bombards out and I start chewing off his keep in the middle, and I finally managed to get him to destroy this. And the good thing about this is that he actually doesn't have any access to stone. All the stone is here in the map, and I will soon start mining from it to build keeps all over the map. And something else that he's starting to have trouble with is that he's running out of wood. If you see the map, all of this wood line is disappeared. He doesn't have any wood left anywhere else on the map, and that's going to soon be an issue for him as well. All of these military buildings are probably going to be his last, and that's why he started trading as well. Trading is a pretty good thing to do in the Imperial Age when you start running out of resources. So I started doing that myself as well. But now he's starting to move on to my side of the map with his villagers because he's desperate for wood. But now that I have stone, I start keeping or building keeps on the sacred sites. So now my plan is to win by sacred sites. Since I cannot break his front line, I'll just attempt to build by sacred sites, and I will eventually try to break through here to get this one too. So now that I have control of the middle of the map and I have a keep here, it is very important that as Byzantines you always upgrade your static defenses, because mangonel emplacement is actually an extremely good thing to have, especially if it is on a keep. I should have also been upgrading boiling oil, but yeah, having that in your defenses is extremely important. As you can see here, he can beat my army, but he cannot break through this keep. So every time he pushes into the middle of the map, he eventually has to fall back because of my keep here. In the meantime, I have mined all the stone that I had on the map. I have built 2 keeps here. This keep will be extremely important later, because if I want to capture this, that will be very important for me to have. Now at this point I managed to sneak in a monk over on his side to capture this. So now he is distracted on the front, and he also wants to get this uncapped. He will not be able to stay on the front all day. And finally I get a cistern here to buff up these military buildings, and I will keep getting hand cannoneers because this will be more effective than longbows to deal with his front line. He still hasn't been able to get this because he is busy dealing with my army on the front. So now the fight continues, but now I've started to use my hand cannoneers to clear up his front line. My longbows will kill the important things that he has on the back of his army, like the culverins and his own hand cannoneers. And meanwhile, the rest of my army deals with the front line. So that is something that you need to be very careful of. You need to be very mindful of how you micro your longbows. So right now I'm wasting damage because I am attacking the golems, as you can see. The golems are not taking any damage whatsoever. I should be attacking the hand cannoneers on the back instead. And now I started to micro my longbows correctly. So instead of just attacking the men-at-arms, which are the tank force of the Abbasid player, now I start attacking the things on the back. So my longbows are actually doing something, like killing the gold units, and while the rest of my army defend my longbows. And he does try to take my sacred side away a couple of times, but I managed to sneak in a couple of units there to defend it. And this keep here is giving me so much value because it also helps me defend pretty effectively. And there's only 2 minutes left for the sacred side victory, so all I need to do is just keep rallying units to here. And whenever I see that he's trying to decap, I just go for a couple of horsemen to deal with that. And this skip is being the MVP pretty much. Wow, he actually almost decaps the thing, but I think he's he enjoys using the select all army key, so that's why he went away there. He probably was distracted on the front or something. But now that I have a lot more ground in the middle, I am able to just send units there to defend. And he's having trouble in the middle because now I have a lot of hand cannoneers to deal with his front line, and my longbows will keep killing his hand cannoneers on the back. So that is a pretty good combo to have. And my Barragan guards and horsemen will just keep serving as my front line. So finally, after 1 hour and 12 minutes of grind, he decides to tap out, and that is pretty much the game. So lessons from this match: make sure you utilize the advantage that you have in the castle age, because as I said in the beginning, I could have done way more damage than I did. He managed to not take any damage while being 2TC, and I just threw away a lot of units to his TC and his archers and his horsemen at the beginning. So be very active with your scout. Don't just have an army and then just make them stand in front of the enemy's base. Use that army to do some damage. Go around the enemy's base looking for something to deal damage to, and not just stand there. Use the advantage that you have from getting 5 cisterns really early, and if you get some damage done onto your opponent that way, you might even win the game pretty early. And that's it. If you reached this far, consider leaving a like and a subscribe. That definitely means a lot. Have a nice day and see you in the next one.